Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for BroadwayWorld. James Ortiz's critically acclaimed The Woodsman is returning to New York, where it will begin performances on January 27th at New World Stages. And I caught up with James and co-director Claire Carpin during a break in rehearsal. So here we are. So first of all, congratulations. Welcome back to this new engagement here at New World Stages. James, explain what The Woodsman is.
The Woodsman is a reimagining of the Tin Man's origins from the novel of the wonderful Wizard of Oz, mixed with other pieces of writing that L. Frank Baum wrote in his career about Oz, about the Woodsman, about these characters. And I think we're actually trying to do what he had originally intended with the material, hopefully.
Which is, I would say, Baum was trying to write an American fairy tale.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get back to the roots of that and really tell an American fairy tale, an American folk tale.
I mean, it is truly the only American fairy tale, folk tale is questionable, but only fairy tale that we have. So, and it's sort of been interestingly cut through. It hasn't really been examined in that way. So I think there's something really exciting about that.
See, growing up, I was obsessed with the books. I was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz. Were you too?
He was, absolutely.
Yeah.
I grew up with the movie, but it was like my introduction to, I would say, the real Oz came from James and working on this project. And that was a real introduction because he actually has all of the books and all these beautiful, beautiful sort of resource books that like annotated copies of the Wizard of Oz. And not only has it is it the story really awesome, but it's inspired a lot of other artists to make, amazing illustrations and things like that. Although I don't think, other than, like Wicked or things like that, nobody's necessarily gone back to the actual source material that I know of. So it's really fun that we got to go back to like the primary source and go from there to create the story.
The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was the first novel that was ever read to me. So, there's some emotional connection there. And I think it's the series, the novels, were something that kind of kept returning to me in various parts in my life. And it became this sort of lovely mainstay. It was sort of a reminder of my childhood in a lovely way. And it just sort of felt like at a certain point, this was a piece that something about this material needed me to tell it. I didn't know what it was. And then we kind of found our way into this, and here we are.
Yeah, one of the most exciting things I think about this, about the fact that we're telling this story and that James is telling this story, is that it involves puppets. And he's a brilliant, brilliant puppet maker. And the story, and I won't give anything away, but the particulars of the story and how the Tin Man became the Tin Man lend themselves really, really well to puppets. And so I feel like that side of you, including all of your other like love for the project and the story, but that side, the puppeteering side, and the fact that has a kind of magic in it.
Yeah, I think everything that Baum writes, there's obviously sort of a rustic Americana, which we've already talked about, but there's something. He was a maker. He was a hand maker. He had like 3,500 different jobs in his life before he became a writer. So I think he had his hands in every little pot. And I think there's something really special about the fact that it's not a man in a suit, it's a puppet. And there's something about the magic of that and the fact that in the story, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but in the story there is something that the only thing that's keeping him together is his own willpower, his heart. So I think it just seemed like the perfect medium to try to tell the story in.
Well, let's talk about this beautiful man right here.
Sure.
How did you come up to design him?
There's a lot of stuff. There's it's 115 years old, the first novel, and then there's so many other novels. He wrote 14 novels in his career. Everyone has a plethora of different illustrators and so many different things to draw from. For me, I was really interested in the spindliness of him. I thought there was something really exciting about the fact that he was despite the fact that he is made of metal, he is quite fragile. And it just felt like that was the only way to do it, something long and sinewy. There's a lot of different interpretations of him, and we're so used to the funnel hat and all these different things and the bow tie, and that is something from one of the illustrations. It's not something that is not true. But it just sort of felt like what would be the most unadorned, the most authentic, the most ungilded version of him. And it sort of became a really fun exercise in learning how to rivet, I have to say. It was a challenge. It was a real challenge for me to figure out. He's really a kinetic sculpture in a way that is unlike most other puppets I've ever made. So it was a real challenge.
And also I'll just say it's really fun to watch James make puppets and see this is the the latest version, but this I think is like a water bottle, a water cooler,
It's a lot
or it used
of
to be
found
at some
objects.
point, like
Yeah.
found
Interesting,
objects.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
can see that,
yeah.
and it's like things like that. What's really fun is watching how he just actually takes things that he finds and
Yeah.
turns them into amazing puppets.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tradition of make it work, which again I think is a lot about Baum. But there's a lot of fun little things all over him. There's bits of coffee can and bits of metal and bits of wood and bits of plastic and bits of all kinds of stuff that kind of make him into what he needs to be, which is hopefully safe and lightweight for the puppeteers.
Yeah, which,
Debatable.
Which, speaking of, these
Puppeteers,
are
totally,
these are,
yeah.
amazing puppeteers. This is Will.
Hi.
This is Aaron.
Hello.
And down here is Alec.
Hey, how's it going?
And one of the things that you'll see, which I think is really beautiful about puppeteering, which I've learned on
Yeah.
this experience, is that as they work the puppet, instead of looking necessarily at where the puppet looks, they look at the puppet. So every time that the audience is looking, they follow the puppeteer's gaze back to the puppet.
Yeah.
So everybody knows where to look.
Yeah, it's a way of just focusing. It's a big thing that we always talk about. We talk a lot about breath, and it's a big sort of thing throughout the entire show, but breath being the life of this inanimate object is the only way that we can bring it to life. We can move things, but then it's sort of artificial. So we always have to talk about breath, and we always have to talk about where the puppeteer's gaze is, which seems like a non-event, but it's so... The second they're looking away, we're looking at them. It's the weirdest thing in the world.
It is a little like magic.
Yeah.
And this is, our wonderful Tin Man, but there are some other puppets in the show.
Yep.
And particularly when we talk about breath, there's a terrifying witch puppet
Yeah.
that is operated by two of our amazing actresses. And whenever she's just sort of sitting around, she just, she looks drunk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she just is sitting around. She just looks dead. And then the second that they pick her up, and then when she starts to breathe, you can feel the entire energy of the room change, and
Yeah.
everybody sort of goes, oh, there she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we also have a beautiful beast puppet and
do.
some crows. And then we also have actors. I mean, it's not just a puppet show.
Yeah.
The puppets are those that I mentioned. And then we have, James is Nick.
Also in it.
In it. He's also in it. Speaking
Yeah,
of having
yeah.
3,500
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah,
And then we have this incredible company of actors. So
Yeah.
even these guys, you'll see that they're puppeteering, but they also, they do other things and have characters in the show as well. And it's really watching it's really watching people, like flesh and blood people, as well as
Yeah.
these incredibly magical
I
puppets.
think it's a human story with magical elements as opposed to a magic story with people around. And I think a lot like Baum's writing, that is sort of the core of, I think, what the material wants to be.
Yeah.
My final question is, critics and audiences have fallen in love with your show already. You must be so thrilled to be coming back to New World stages. What are you looking forward to the most with bringing the Woodsman back?
Golly.
Well, I mean, I would say that first of all, it is really special. People really respond to it, and a lot of people are excited who didn't get a chance to see it. I'm really, really excited for them to get to see it because it is so special. And a lot of people who've already seen it are
Yeah.
really excited to see it again.
Yeah.
We have a lot of repeat offenders who come back again and again because it really moves them, and also to bring their friends. So I'm really excited for that. And then also, it's really nice to have the time to actually re-examine some moments and just make the show better. So it'll
Yeah.
feel the same, but like with anything, we are making revisions, and we're reimagining moments, and rehearsing and making and deepening things and making the magic better and better. So
Yeah, I
that's
think that's completely
part of the
true.
joy. And I'm excited to have it at the new space too. It's going to be at New
Oh my
World
gosh.
Stages, and that's exciting. We're right now they're loading in, and I think it's going to be really beautiful, and they're totally going to transform.
It's going to be an
That
entirely immersive space, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really exciting. I think the second you walk through the door, you're going to be in some place that doesn't quite feel like the Oz you know, but feels possibly more alive than what we're accustomed to. I think there's something exciting about that. I'm excited about the moment-to-moment audience response, because they're as much of a part of the show as we are. And it's amazing to sort of clock and be a part of their experience and their following of this narrative. It's sort of, it's every night, it's always thrilling.
It is like a fairy tale for grown-ups. Also for kids, but that's one of the fun is like watching or hearing the audience respond like kids again.